Welcome to Muffin Talk.
Kia ora and welcome to Muffin Talk. This program is brought to you by the initiative Titipounamu Study and Joy. My guest today is Debbie Miller. Debbie, a warm welcome and hi Remai to our program.
Hi.
Debbie Miller is an active member of Beth Shalom, the progressive Jewish synagogue in Auckland. She is a lifetime student of Jewish studies. Debbie, in our common scriptures, there is often the reference to listening. And I understand that one of the most popular Jewish prayers starts with, "Listen, O Israel." Can you tell us more about the importance of listening from your perspective as a student of Jewish studies?
My pleasure. So it's very interesting. Our central prayer is the Shema, and that's Shin Mayim Ayin, the Hebrew letters. It means to hear, but it also means to listen. And it's very interesting that 3 times a day, we are commanded to say this prayer. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And then we say after it, Vahavta, which is Vahavta Adonai Elohecha b'kol lebavcha b'kol nafshecha b'kol me'odecha, with all your heart, with all your might, and with all your soul. And it goes on to tell you where you should put all these different things that are going to remind you to say, Hear, O Israel. So when we enter our house, we're supposed to have it. We're supposed to put it on when we put our tefillin on, which is a little box, and we say the prayer again. We're supposed to do it when we study in the study hall, when we sit at the table, when we teach our children. And you say, like, why all the directives? And the real reason is that, believe it or not, listening is a lot harder than you think. And to hear God is one, a lot of times we have competing voices in our lives. We hear a lot of things that compete for our attention and our time. And we think those things determine whether we are a success or not a success in life. And so a lot of times, saying that we need to talk about it, all different components of our life, is really necessary, because many times if you just do it in the morning and you do it in the evening and everything else in the middle of the day, which makes up your vast majority of your life, it becomes a little box you tick. It's not something that's woven into the fabric of your life. And so when you say to listen, especially because we're very social animals and we love to communicate, myself included, we spend a lot of time talking versus actually hearing. And there's 2 famous statements in the Bible. One where God is very, very large, and that's when Moses goes up onto the mountain and he takes up the people of Israel and he receives the commandments, and the people of Israel respond, and God says, here is the covenant that I'm giving you. This is all these very amazing laws that are going to make you have a community that is, you could say, God-fearing, ethical, true, fair, pursuing justice, all sorts of things that you want to say that will make your life holy. And the people respond, Naseh v'nishma. And it's very interesting because their response is not, we hear you. I mean, God is talking to them in unbelievably loud, to the point where the people can't take it. They freak out and they're like, no, Moses, you go up and talk to God. We can't handle it. God's too intense for us. So it's the one time where the 600,000 Jews that left Egypt, or the 600,000 people who left Egypt who are going to follow God, come together and hear God. And they don't say, we hear you. They say, Naseh, which means we will do. Okay? And then after that, we will hear it. Why? Because many times we we actually can't hear until we've actually done the deed. So in other words, I'll give you a simple example. You help an old woman to cross the street, and you've given help to somebody else, and you feel really good and you feel connected. And so that deed that you did actually makes you able to hear or feel your connection with God. You cannot feel it if somebody just says blah 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 blah. Do good deeds. Be nice to other people. It's only when you actually do the deed that you actually feel the connection. We are physical communal beings. We need physical communal action. We need to engage. We need to be part of doing the laws and the engagement with other people and helping people. And then we actually hear God.
So it's
We
this
don't hear
order.
it.
It's not action and word at the same time. It's first the action and then the listening or the
Absolutely. You actually don't come to understand what it means to hear it until you've done something first.
so you first
It's
have to trust also that you are doing.
no, not trust. Actually, trust is not part of it. It's
Mhm.
deed. So, in other words, the very big differential between Christianity and Judaism is they say all you have to do is say that you love Jesus. In Judaism, here's 613 commandments. Do the 613 commandments, and then we'll get to the part where we know if you really loved God or not, or if you hear God, or you. But by doing these actions, all these commandments, then you actually are connected to what God was saying to you. You don't get the connection from blah, 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 or I feel like I trust to God. No, we're not into feelings. We're not into love. We're into deeds. Say, and then you actually will hear. Put a prayer on your doorpost of your house. Then you'll remember this thing. Put a frontlet between your eyes when you're praying. Then you'll remember that you hear that you're connected to God. Say a blessing over the wine. Then you'll remember. Only through deeds, or what we call mitzvot, good deeds, will you actually get this connection. Simplistically, what you can just talk about deeds of loving kindness, which we call gimilut chasadim, which is like where you do good deeds for other people. When you give to somebody else, it always, when you receive from somebody who gives to you, you don't feel nearly as good as when you give to somebody else. When you give to somebody else, you feel much better. So it's ironic. Like most of the time we think, oh, we received if we would just win the lottery, we'd be so happy. Actually, if you just took the money from your bank account and helped somebody else, you would feel much better. It's not the receiving the lottery, it's the giving. And it's really, for some bizarre reason, we can't get that. But if you go out and practice it, no question about it. Every single time I help somebody else out, I feel, ah, it's a epiphany, like, that really works. It's truly amazing. Giving is something that connects me with God. The deed connects me with God. The
Is the is
second,
the sorry, is the word that you mentioned, the word is a little bit different. So you have hear and listen, and you have this action that you mentioned. That's the
so
same
it's
word as
naseh v'nishma. It's the nun, the N sound in front of it is the exact same word. It's just a word used for a large group of people. So in Hebrew, grammatically, you need the n before the whole word. So nishma, you need an N sound before it. And when you're talking to plural, okay? So shema is singular, but nishma is plural, okay? And so therefore, that's why you're hearing a different word. It's just grammar.
Mhm.
Well, you couldn't say it's just grammar. It's the fact that it was a communal experience.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I want to say is there is this the a place in Kings, which is 1912 Kings
About
with
Elijah.
Elijah. It's
Yeah.
Elijah. Very good. Ooh, I'm impressed. So
Well, he
so
listens
in
to the small voices, didn't he?
yeah, exactly. So that you like my boxes. So I'm a potter and I make these little boxes that say still small voice. And it's called the Madaka. So Elijah is looking for God, and there's an earthquake, there's a fire, there's like all these terrible things that are happening, and he in each one of those things, the storm, the fire, the earthquake, he doesn't find God, but he does find God when there's like this moment of silence, and it's called Kol Dma Daka, the still small voice. And that is the voice that you hear when you are listening for it. It's the internal listening, the internal connection. And and that is another form of listening. I mean, some of the other listenings are physical deeds. This is more of the sit and contemplate or pray, and then you will hear God's presence, whatever that means. I really, really have a hard time with saying these things out loud because I think it makes God very, very physical, and I'm not so sure of myself in that area. But I do believe in the still small voice. And I do believe that the people on Mount Sinai heard something that was incredibly earth shattering. Whatever form God chooses to be present in our lives, you won't hear it unless you're listening. You won't hear it unless you're doing. You won't hear it unless you are putting it into every component of your life. You don't get to just say, it's now. I decided now I'm going to pray. And so therefore God's here now. No. According to this, every moment is an opportunity. Every moment is a moment to pray. Every moment is a moment to engage. Every moment is a moment to engage with your fellow person in community and do something for them. Everything is an opportunity, and that's what the Shema talks about. It talks about the idea, believe it or not, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, which is considered like the de facto prayer, is followed by 3 paragraphs of how you can do the Shema. And it's how you plant your fields, and it's how you give to the poor, and it's how you pray. And it's like, you think like, do they think we're like stupid? All we have to do is say this one line. No, you can't hear that there is one God, or that there is God, or that it's more important than everything else material existence we have in this world, unless it's part of our lives. And so like hearing is hard. I think a lot of times God understood that hearing is really hard for us to do. We are not spontaneously praying for the most part. So he gives us a prayer book with all these prayers written down, and he gives us rituals with all these rituals written down, and he gives us events to celebrate all the major events in our lives, and he gives us ways to donate to the poor and to help the needy, and to visit the sick. And you say, the penny drops. I actually couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear God until I did these deeds.
I think it's also important that in English, there are 3 terms about hearing. And the hearing as hearing, but more like a physical hearing, and listening like you're paying attention. And then the traditional obeying, which comes from the Latin obedire, which means to listen very closely and to act upon it. But unfortunately, in the development of the language, it has become an obeying, which is not necessarily including the listening. It's you do exactly what somebody says. And but I think from what you are saying, it sounds like this obedire, this obeying originally comes from exactly that concept that you listen and do.
So actually, you're right. The obeying is first.
Mhm.
Obeying comes first, if you want to put it in those terms. Obeying comes first. Doing the action and the deed brings true listening to happening.
Mhm.
Um, that's what I think all these texts say to me.
Mhm.
They seem to point to the fact that without deeds we can't hear.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Debbie. I think that we have given some food for thought and a reminder to listen closely, and to act upon it, and maybe to act and then to listen. So let's continue these kind of reflections every now and then, because I think it's important to look at the words and look at how you are seeing it from your scriptures, or because you also speak Hebrew, whereas I depend on translations. Thank you so much, Debbie.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Out there, oh, peace is calling. In the bonds of love we meet. For the world, a new day dawning and shining.